aloha kako, aloha po'alima kako. Welcome everyone to Hawaiian History Month, and we are so excited for our second week of programming here on our virtual stage. Hawaii Pua No'eau Coalition is always really excited to work with so many partners and organizations that are really wanting to share our mo'olelo, our history of Hawaii, and of course, celebrate the birthday of our Queen Liliuokalani. So we're gonna get started really quickly. And you know, we were thankful that we celebrated Liliu's birthday at the palace this past Saturday. So every September 2nd, you know, we love celebrating Liliu and all that she has set forth for us in all of the work that we do. So, you know, she guides Hawaiian History Month. She helps us in just coming together every year and finding the right stories to share. So this week, you know, we are excited to be talking about Eola Kalahui and Hawaiian culture-based education. So on Wednesday, we were thankful to have Kalei Kailihiva from KS Kaiaulu, who came and shared a little bit more about all the different work that they're doing in the community today and ways that they are partnering. And so tonight, one of the partners of KS Kaiaulu, who has been doing work for so many decades, is here to share their mo'olelo. And here on the screen, you can see the title of their presentation, Kaukala Eola Kaha, Engaging Children and Families Through Culture and Education. And at this time, I want to invite two of my good friends who said yes when I put out the kahea to come and share their mo'olelo, because when I thought about Hawaiian culture-based education, Pua No'eau came to mind very quickly. Even I wasn't a former haumana in Pua No'eau, but definitely a former kumu who, you know, was able to work with so many of our gifted Hawaiian children that came to so many of the programming throughout the Pai'aina. And so, of course, I know they will share. Anakala David sings Inoa and his praises, but tonight I want to invite Kinohi Gomes and Lisa Letoto Oata to share their mo'olelo. And, you know, we all are a part of Hawaii Nui Akea, the School of Hawaiian Knowledge at the University of Hawaii at Mānoa. And yeah, I'm happy to have you guys. Aloha.
Aloha, Malia. And thank you so much for, first of all, the kono, the invitation for us to present on behalf of Pua No'eau. We're so very humbly honored to do this presentation and webinar for everyone. So mahalo to you. Mahalo to the Hawaii Pua No'eau Coalition for putting on such a great opportunity, not only for Ohana and Kaiaulu, but our Kaiaulu abroad. So we are very mahalo and grateful for that opportunity to do that for our audience. And then last but definitely not least, we wanted to send a very special mahalo to Courtney and Lauren. We so used to doing Zoom and running Zoom ourselves. So it's really cool to have support and kako'o from OEV TV to allow us to present without having to do spotlighting and everything by ourselves that Lisa and I are very used to. So mahalo.
Hi, mahalo nui.
Yeah, thank you. So tonight we are so very honored again to really feature our presentation for this evening, talking a little bit about what we do with Pua No'eau with our presentation entitled Kaukala Eola Kaha. And I'll talk about that and what that means very shortly. I am Kinohi Gomes. I'm the director for Pua No'eau at UH Manoa, and as Malia had shared, co-piloting with me, as always, I have the wonderful Lisa, where we're going to be talking story about how we just engage in a multitude of different capacities with different audiences. And that's what the premise is of our presentation this evening. So mahalo nui. So Kaukala Eola Kaha, which is our theme, yeah, for tonight. And it's a saying I put together, which is talking about when the sun is overhead, the stalk thrives. And it's kind of poetic in the true fashion of hakumele and writing Pua No'eau. It also is metaphorically talking about that when the sun is overhead, that's when our breath, our ha, lives. And metaphorically, it's also talking about our children, that when we inspire and we share and we teach, that's how our keiki thrive and grow. If I actually had more words I could use, I would actually use even mahina in there, just because we know that in the growth cycle of things, primary growth for our keiki and primary growth for our natural environment happens kaukala, which is when the sun is overhead, and kaukamahina, when the moon is overhead. That's the two key points in which growth happens. So if I had more words to describe our title, I would, but I kind of shorten it. Also, metaphorically, we're kind of dedicating this presentation and webinar to our Ohana and keiki on Maui. I played a little bit on words with la and ha as an ode to our lahaina, keiki and Ohana. So, we dedicate this presentation to them. We have them in our hearts and we aloha them very, very much. So with that, the picture that you see here, this is our beautiful kanewai. As Malia had mentioned, they're one of our 4 departments that I'll talk about that's part of Hawaii Nui Akea, and this is our keiki from last year's Summer Institute that participated in our Summer Institute program.
And tonight, as Kinohi and I were discussing what we wanted to share with you, we came up with the Pua No'eau, or the theme, and hopefully it ties in everything that if you were tuning in to Wednesday's webinar and then you're with us tonight, it kind of all fits in and it will take it down the road a little bit more so you can understand what we're doing and how we're doing it. It's so neat that we are fortunate that we get to do the work that we do. And we talk about engaging with our keiki, engaging with our ohana, but it starts even before that. And many times we are asked, like, how do you do what you do? How are you folks so effective in your programming? Well, it comes down to, it's not just us, but it's really working with a whole bunch of other people. So we have our collaborative engagement, our Pua No'eau, collaborations. We'll be touching on that. We'll be sharing a little bit of how that works for us, who we collaborate with, how we collaborate, what does that look like in a collaboration. We're also going to talk about Ohana engagement, because that's a huge piece for us at Pua No'eau. We don't just have classes or workshops or seminars. It has to be about engagement, interaction, and many of the times, more than half of our programs are based around Ohana engagement, where the keiki and their Ohana are all participating together. And then we're going to take you down the home stretch to our community engagement. What does that look like? We as Pua No'eau, as an organization, we collaborate, we work together with others who are out there, who are like-minded, doing similar things to what we are. And then we take it and we present it to our Ohana. We work with the Ohana and the keiki. But where does it go after that? Well, that's our community engagement. And we're going to share a bit about how this goes further than just the hale, how we ask the Ohana to take it out into their community and share it in their community as well.
So before we kind of go on this ride together about how we run engagement with our partners and our communities and our Ohana, we definitely wanted to share the genealogy and groundwork of where we are with Pua No'eau as a center. Pua No'eau is currently independently running at each of our different campuses. So along with UH Manoa, we have our community college on Kauai, sister site. We also have our Maui College site, Pua No'eau site, and we also have our UH West Oahu site. For Pua No'eau UH Manoa, we are currently housed at the Native Hawaiian Student Services Center. And we are so very happy to be a part of the genealogy of Native Hawaiian Student Services, where I feel we're the only entity, the only office and program throughout the whole university system that actually runs opportunities from pre-K to what I say, or what I coin as all the way up to PhD. And I think that's such a beautiful educational continuum to how we provide experiences and opportunities for our keiki and ohana of virtually all ages in a higher educational system. So I definitely wanted to acknowledge our Native Hawaiian Student Services Center, of which Native Hawaiian Student Services, and you'll kind of see as we talk tonight about what we stand for as an organization with Pua No'eau. It's all about growing Hawaiian leaders, strengthening Hawaiian research, and empowering the lahui. So you're going to see even with the little ones, little ways in which we kind of engage with our children and families to really empower our people. As Malia had briefly shared, Native Hawaiian Student Services, which is where Pua No'eau is housed, makes up one of 4 different departments that makes up the overarching umbrella of Hawaii Nui Akea School of Hawaiian Knowledge. So along with Native Hawaiian Student Services, I definitely want to acknowledge Kamakakuakalani Center for Hawaiian Studies, our friends at Kapapalo'io Kanewai, and last but definitely not least, Kawai Huelani, Kahalau Olelo Hawaii, our Hawaiian Language Department at the University of Hawaii at Mānoa. These 4 entities make up what I call the Hawaiian powerhouse at a university campus, of really looking at education for our people and beyond in a multitude of different platforms and ways. Lisa, your mic.
Sorry, I forgot to unmute myself. As Malia had mentioned, Dr. David Singh, or Uncle David, as he is fondly known to many of us, he started Pua No'eau in 1989 at UH Hilo. And his vision and mission at that time was to nurture the educational continuum, like he mentioned, pre-K through college, by strengthening the cultural identity of Native Hawaiians and by providing them with multifaceted opportunities for college degree completion and career pathways, which then will prepare them as leaders for their communities and the world. We see this till today. Pua No'eau will turn 35 next year, and we are very proud to say that we're still going strong. We're still living out that mission and carrying out Uncle David's vision in our lahui. At UH Manoa in particular, we have programs that we run both virtually and in person. So this past summer, we have our flagship program, which is one of our popular programs for keiki in grades 6 through 12, our Summer Institute program. It's a residential program that's almost 2 weeks long, where we have 20 students, 20 middle school students for 2 weeks, and then 20 high school students for another 2 weeks at the second half of June. And they come and they actually live with us. They reside with us. We have staff teams, and they get to explore career pathways in STEM and the arts. So we had 4 different classes that they could take during the day, as well as they're immersed heavy in cultural learning. So things like cultural protocol, arts and crafts, learning lei making, learning mele, traditional songs, chanting, as well as we even do some cooking, nutrition and health, because that's so important. We have them stretch and grow as leaders for our lahui. And hopefully we then send them back home where they're carrying this out in their hale with their ohana and then in their schools. Our program, which is highly, highly interactive and engaging, Ohana Enrichment Makahale, actually was born out of COVID. So back in March 2020, when everything was shut down, including the Pua No'eau, we canceled all our in-person programs. And in a discussion early on, Kinohi and I were in a Zoom meeting, and we were talking about, well, what are we going to do? All these keiki are now stuck at home because schools are shut down. Ohana were stuck at home because, businesses closed if they weren't essential. And people just didn't know what to do. So we came up with our Makahale program. That was the first one that we started, which focused on STEM projects. And we did this all online on Zoom. And then rolled that out. Kinohi and I had to figure our way through it. Then went to Mo'olelo and a lullaby because, literacy is such an important piece too. And we, at that time, had a component in our contract that was for literacy pre-K to third. So we rolled out Mo'olelo and a lullaby, where families would gather with their keiki on a Monday night for 45 minutes to an hour. We would read a book or a puke, which we would actually send home to their hale. So they'd have this in their hands, reading along. And we'd have a local musician read and share some mele. So the keiki would get up and dance with their ohana. They would bring out their instruments. It was an awesome sight to see. Probably our most popular program to date is our Let's Cook Kako program. And, we got to take it back to where it all started way back in the day. How did we engage with our ohana? A lot of it was over food, right? With our ohana, with our hoa in the community. It was all about food. And that was something that over time we were losing because people became so busy. So Kinohi and I thought, you know what? Let's take it back to food. So we went and put our heads together again and created Let's Cook Kako. Mahalo to the Hawaii DOE Community Engagement Branch, which took that leap of faith with us to pilot this program. And we found that it was so popular that even after we finished our pilot, people were still asking for it. So other funders picked it up. But, it was something where the ohana would come together. They would cook a meal together with us. They could eat together, but they could also clean together. So really it brought out in the ohana that it wasn't just one person's responsibility or kuleana to cook and clean the kitchen, but it was everybody's kuleana to do that. And it was so neat to be able to see that we were trying different recipes. A lot of the recipes are tweaked because we tweak it so that it fits the local palate, but also that it's easy for keiki to do. They can cook, and then also that it's something that ohana can go back to. So this morning I was scrolling through my Instagram post and someone had hashtagged Pua No'eau on their posting. And it was so great to see. I was telling Kinohi that there was a makua that posted a recipe that we had shared in our Let's Cook Kako. It was in a menu last year in February, and it was our lasagna theme. So we did a Valentine's Day theme. We did mini lasagnas where you roll up the lasagna in the noodle instead of layering the noodles out. And she posted a picture and said, that she was inspired to use Pua No'eau's recipe to make that lasagna recently, like this week. And I thought, wow, yes, point on, because that's what our vision was, that we would share something with the ohana that they could continue to use and they could engage the entire ohana with. So it was so neat to see that. We also have Paint Pa'ina for our 4th to 12th graders and their ohana, where they can come together and paint and bring out their creative sides. Now, we don't forget that we are housed on a university campus, and one of our purposes there is to be able to create opportunities for the haumana and the keiki to explore different college pathways, to explore financial aid and other topics that come along with getting ready and preparing to attend higher education, whether it's at Mānoa through one of the community colleges, it might be, at another university. But we also have our college bound program, so our college bound 360 and our We Go Kako. And there came a point when Kinohi and I sat down and we said, between the two of us, we have reached our capacity to serve the numbers that we're serving how are we going to enable other people to do this? Keep in mind, we weren't going to get any more funding to hire people to do it. So we have to figure out how were we going to share what we were doing, and not necessarily just the curriculum that we created, but the method of how we get to where we're going with these sessions, with these projects, with these Ohana engagement activities. We came up with Pua No'eau. So that was a program that was developed to share our ike and what we do and our thought process with kumu, with after-school leaders. And you'd be surprised at the populations that we have actually had participate. Social workers, people who are like pillars in their Ohana that want to just take this and do this with their Ohana, because maybe their Ohana needs some healing. Their Ohana needs to be able to interact and engage together. And they use these tools that we provide them with to be able to do that.
Which I think is a perfect transition into our first topic for this evening on collaborative engagement. So kind of in the groundwork that we're telling you all of these little anecdotes and some information, it kind of lays the groundwork for where we're at today with the Pua No'eau. And I say it very frequently that the Pua No'eau's existence is not because of what Lisa and I do, but ever since the inception of Uncle David coming up with the Pua No'eau, via the Ko'u report, which can be a whole nother conversation in itself, we were very vigilant about, in nearly that 35-year time, about fostering and taking care of relationships that we have with our students, relationships that we have with our Ohana, relationships that we have with our campus departments, and relationships that we have with our community, all in which come through collaboration and partnerships. So as Lisa had shared, when we were hit with the COVID-19 situation, and how that impacted our Hawaii's communities, Lisa really and I really put our heads together on how we are going to make things happen for our children and families. But one of the wonderful byproducts of COVID-19, even though it was such an impactful thing that happened and continues to happen, as we kind of hear right in the news, it really forced all of the orgs to band together, to collaborate together, to kind of figure out what could we do to really take care of our communities, families, and children. And through that, not only were the programs born that Lisa talked about virtually, but from that also came beautiful collaboration. So for those of you guys who kind of watched the session on Wednesday, one of the awesome collaborations that we're able to formulate is definitely with the Kamehameha Schools Kaiaulu department and program, where Kamehameha Schools kind of was on the radar of what we were doing with our families and community. And through Talk Story and meeting together, we put our heads together on creating a collaboration and partnership to really kind of cast a huge net into our communities, not only on Oahu, but throughout the whole state and even beyond the state of Hawaii, to make opportunities happen. And we thought that it was such a beautiful and amazing collaboration that we have to this very day to collaborate with Kamehameha Schools Kaiaulu, to look at ways in which we can kokua our communities and families beyond the Kamehameha campuses, beyond the 30 preschools that are in existence via Pauahi and her vision of taking care of our little ones via Kamehameha Schools, but looking at ways where we can kind of deepen our opportunities in communities, in online learning opportunities, and really trying our best to connect our Ohana and keiki to Aina. And so that's how this beautiful collaboration with Kamehameha Schools Kaiaulu was born. Yeah, go ahead, Lisa.
Go ahead.
Okay, so with that, we got the kahea around the same time that we're formalizing this partnership with Kamehameha Schools Kaiaulu, that we get the kahea from our friends at Lili'uo Kalani Trust and Kamehameha Learning Center, Community Learning Center in Ma'ili, where they said, hey, na Pua No'eau, would you like to partner with us? And I say, yes. What we're going to do, I don't know, but let's collaborate and figure it out. And with that, Kapono Kai'ulu was born. This collaboration where Pua No'eau got reeled in into this program that was going on in the Wai'anae community for quite some time. And then Pua No'eau was reeled in as a partner to present this opportunity via Kapono Kai'ulu in partnership with not only Kamehameha Schools Community Learning Center in Ma'ili, but alongside with Ma'o Organic Farms, go figure, right? Along with In Peace, go figure, right? And what we did was we put our heads together and collaborate, and we formulated this name, Kapono Kai'ulu, before the Kai'ulu Kamehameha Schools was formulated. And funny how the planets align, just like how we're presenting right after Kalei, where we came up with the name of Kapono Kai'ulu, which is talking about Kai'ulu meaning community, and Pono meaning not only to be righteous and to be right and proper in what you do, but it's also talking about the resources, bringing resources to our community, Kapono Kai'ulu. And that's how we came up with that name and organization in doing some of the programs and initiatives that Lisa's going to be talking about in result of Kapono Kai'ulu.
So Kapono Kai'ulu, Kinohi mentioned it's made up of the 4 organizations, and how that works is through this year-long theme that we follow for these monthly sessions, each organization will take the lead on a month. But that doesn't stop there. It doesn't mean that that organization needs to do everything for that month. Some organizations have more team members than others, more resources. As the recipient of one of the Kai'ulu grants, NPN holds the kuleana of managing the fiscal portion of that grant that funds this program, as well as, Kamehameha Schools has kuleana because they host the in-person portion of this program. So with Kapono Kai'ulu, we all step in and we kokua each other. And it's a wonderful working relationship. And you may wonder, well, how does that work? You have 4 organizations, somebody's the leader, and keep in mind, all these 4 organizations come together and it's their leaders that are coming together. So you got all these leaders, but somebody's leading a month. How do you work that out? Well, for us, there are certain seasons, certain times of the year when you're busier than others, or there are certain skills and talents that, someone has that they're able to use because maybe somebody else doesn't have a person who's good at that. So we kind of get to know each other and we step in and we say, hey, you need kokua. We're here to lend that hand. This month, actually next week, we will be doing a session with Ma'o Farms, and they're the lead. How's that? Ma'o Farms, you can kind of think of, well, what are they doing as their activities, right? And Ma'o Farms, they just got their mahiai interns in, so they're super busy. They just lost one of their team members. They're training another one. And they were just overwhelmed. So Kinohi and I said, hey, you folks want some kokua? We have some time. We can kokua you. You want us to come up with some activities? And they were like, sure. So that's how a collaboration works, right? So Kinohi and I talked, we met, and we said, well, why don't we put together a workbook? And what we're doing here is we're combining collaboration superpowers to create the engagement activities. And with this workbook, we would add it to the learning kit that they would be using. So, Ma'o Farms has the things that they're going to do their activities, but this workbook actually took some research, some looking on Google, connecting the dots and all of that, and then formatting, which Kinohi is really good at. So he spent hours formatting and putting this workbook together. Then we have to send it out for printing before it gets packed into learning kits next week, Monday. So in this workbook, you may be wondering what it is. Well, this is what we came up with. So the workbook for us, when we're looking at giving the ohana something, we want to give them something that's long lasting, that they'll be able to go back to, they'll be able to share. Okay, so here we have, and these activities can be found online, Google, super easy to do. We have a word search, we have a maze, and then the focus of the session next week is on the mo'olelo of ku and ulu, okay, and their relation. So they'll be sharing the mo'olelo during the session, but it's nice to have it that you can refer back to if your keiki asks you, or if the ohana is talking about it, you're like, what did they say? So here we have the gift of ku also included on one of the pages. And we don't want to forget our Pua No'eau. Super easy. As we were doing research, this was all online. And then we wanted to give the keiki and the makua an activity that they could do, because sometimes when people are speaking, for the keiki, their focus has to be on something other than the listening, so that they're there and engaging, right? So between Kinohi and I, we tossed out ideas and we came up with, well, what if we had the picture of the ulu and then we had them name the parts? And here we're doing a few things. So if they have younger keiki that they're participating with, they're practicing their cutting skills, their coloring skills, dexterity, things like that. But also we have the Olelo Hawaii and the Olelo Haole. So we're giving them a little bit of a language lesson in that, right? And hopefully building vocabulary, okay? So here we have an example of how we collaborate, how we have the ohana engagement where we bring it to the ohana, and then you'll even see how it takes it down the line at the end.
And I think what's beautiful in the true fashion of what Uncle David set up for Pua No'eau is he was very mindful in saying that in order for our ohana and our keiki to thrive is to make sure that they have the resources and materials to thrive. So we never want to take it for granted that every single ohana has glue or small things like scissors and crayons. So we include that as part of the kit. As Lisa had also shared, along with this activity that we have planned for our theme on ulu that's coming up next week, is we're also going to be providing a mini cooking kit that Ma'o is putting together, which will include the ohana working together, kind of like a mini Let's Cook Kako of putting together a salad with produce that's produced fresh from the farm and Ma'o, integrating ulu, and that's all going to be included as part of the ohana engaging together in this experience that we set up for Kapono Kaiulu. And so Kalei talked about this resource, and she said that it was a resource mainly for our kumu that's out there, but I would say even for our ohana and keiki that are looking for resources at vaihona.net, if you haven't checked it out, I want to plug them in big time, because Vaihona is a definitely huge, resourceful, and helpful tool for our educators and ohana alike that want to learn and even experience different activities, hands-on activities on virtually almost any particular area or theme that you could possibly think of, from meakanu to vai, kai, la'au, and the list goes on and on and on. The Pua No'eau actually has, from Let's Cook Kako, some of our recipes in there, and Lisa put together a fabulous hearty chicken long rice recipe that's super easy to make, super quick, and super ono. So resources like that, from cooking to whatnot, can all be found in this Vaihona platform and website. So if you haven't checked that out, or if you're not signed up, I gotta plug them in, because it's a wonderful resources that all of the collaborators like that of Pua No'eau and others put in this repository to share information and activities that the ohana and educators can do for the betterment of our keiki. Yeah? And speaking of keiki, it leads to our second topic of ohana engagement, and how we go about by working with our children and our families. This is a photo from one of our Let's Cook Kako events where like how Lisa had shared, the keiki actually take a role in cooking, preparing, cutting the vegetables safely, of course, and preparing all of the meals together as a family unit. And, you know, if you guys heard that the name, it's Let's Cook Kako, not Let's Cook Mako. So as Lisa had shared, everyone takes part from the beginning to the end, which also includes not leaving the kitchen for mom and or dad to do the cleaning. The keiki are all part of it. And it kind of circles back to our loina and our values that it's all about the Ohana unit and eating and cooking together. And we have these endless wonderful stories and anecdotes from Ohana sharing that, wow, this is the first time that we've ever cooked together. Or, wow, mahalo to Pua No'eau for actually having us sit down and have dinner together. We haven't had conversations, you know, and the comments and feedback just pour profusely throughout our Let's Cook Kako opportunities and others that we provide. So yeah, we're going to kind of hop into Ohana engagement and how we make that happen, particularly with our Ike in a Box program and opportunity that we provided. Another one of our collaborators that kind of caught wind about what we were doing was the Hawaii State Department of Health. And I saw from our last session, they're actually one of the collaborators for this very opportunity before you folks this evening, this webinar series. And the Hawaii Department of Health, State Department of Health, kind of got wind about what we were doing via Pua No'eau with our Ohana and our children. And they said, you know, how can we collaborate to really provide services and programming to really support the betterment and well-being and health of our children and families at the front end versus being responsive to what's happening on the back end, yeah, with alcohol abuse, drug abuse, opioid abuse, and the list goes on and on and on. So we were approached by the Hawaii State Department of Health to really come up with some creative ways on how we can kind of malama our ohana, malama our keiki, take care of our keiki and our children, and do it in a way that's kind of culturally grounded in language, fun and innovative and engaging for the families. And most importantly, really centers on the well-being and resiliency of our families, yeah? What are those flavors that allow them to live and thrive? So that's how we formalized this partnership via our Ike in a Box program. And with that, Mapuna Lab was also reeled in, where they put together a number of models as far as resiliency and well-being that are grounded in culture and language that we kind of got to learn, listen, and then say, hey, Lisa, how can we kind of hone it in and gear this experience for the little ones? And that's how we came up with Ike in a Box.
So through the Mapuna Lab, they were gifted something called the Kanelehua framework. And that was the first theme that we took for Ike in a Box. So what we did was, using that Kanelehua framework, we came up with different activities that we could put together into a box, and it was an opportunity to engage with children, family, and educators to build resiliency and well-being with Hawaiian culture and language as the foundation. We launched our Ike in a Box, the Ohia Lehua, on Hilo, on Hawaii Island, mainly in Hilo, first of all, with partnerships with the Hawaii DOE and UH Hilo, some various other organizations there. Kinohi and I took this on the road, had Kumu participate with us. And you know, the beauty of this was that we were not only taking a curriculum that we had created with the supplies and sharing this with them, but it really was intended to share the thought processes behind how did we get there, so that they could take the same process and replicate it and create curriculum based in Hawaiian culture as the foundation. So really neat thing, you know, you're seeing there the components of what our box held. And let me turn off my blurred background, because because I'm going to share with you, okay? So first off, we start, and you don't see this on there, but I'd like you to see, we started with a plastic shoebox like this, okay? And this plastic shoebox holds all these supplies for the activities in this particular ike in a box. And it's also a useful piece. It's part of an activity. So on the cover.
Lisa, sorry to interrupt. I'm wondering, can we stop sharing?
Oh, so you can get blown up. Okay.
You? Yeah,
Oh,
there we
okay.
go.
Oh, mahalo, Malia. Okay, so now you folks get to really see this. Okay, so this is the cover. And we worked with a local artist, Chris Koanui, who did all our graphics for us by using decals. And then the cover, we have here our Ohia Lehua tree. But not only that, we also have the Olelo Hawaii and the Olelo Haole identifying the different parts of the tree. But you know what's the beauty of that is that with the Kanelehua framework, we've matched up support systems. So not only are we teaching about the Ohia Lehua, and then we're teaching language, but we're also teaching well-being for keiki and their family. Who are their support systems, right? And we chose a plastic box because they can keep everything organized in it. It's really easy for kumu in schools to be able to stack them up and have everything neatly in the box for each keiki. Not only that, it's also easy to write and label on the box. You know, if you want to put their name or if they want to put a sticker on and then write their name on the sticker, super easy to do that. Okay. Also contained in there, we have our educator's guide. So each kumu that joined us for the Ho'okumu No'eau program received an educator's guide to help guide them through doing these activities with their group. In the box, which you don't see on here, is also a keiki and ohana guide. Because remember, just like our ulu workbook, we want something that the family can look back on, that can refer to, that's also conversational starters, right? So in our keiki and ohana guide, we have similar things like the word find, we have the maze, we also have facts about the Ohia Lehua, we have questions, and then we have Olelo No'eau in there as well, that they can, you know, as an ohana, share with each other and talk about, okay? Then we also included, because, you know, we can't just put one thing or two things in this box. We're over ambitious. We also included a canvas, which is like a paint by numbers taken after our Paint Pa'ina program, but we put markers in. So it's a color by numbers. And this helps in multitudes of teaching keiki colors, helping them to color, helping them to recognize numbers and put those together. It's also a conversational piece where ohana can put it in their hale on their wall, or it could go in a classroom. It could sit on a table. Someone comes and they ask, oh, what is that? It starts conversation about the Ohia Lehua, about support systems, about what they learned, right? So we have something that the ohana will always have, that's conversation starters. Then we also have, and I think this is so neat, this is a feelings card. So you don't see it, but on the back, there are window clings that go with 10 different feelings. So like emojis, right? And sometimes even adults have difficulty expressing themselves verbally. So it's easier for them to communicate if all they had to do was stick the sticker on there indicating how they were feeling. Maybe they were happy that day. Hey, they welcome you knocking on their door. Maybe they weren't having a good day. They were feeling kind of, you know, not good. You look at that and you know, 10 different feelings that they could choose from. Kinohi, actually, Kinohi, can you share about what that teacher said, the one that taught special ed?
Oh yeah. So in one of the workshop presentations that we did, and we got to this activity with our gang on the emotions, yeah, looking at the different ano and what we feel from time to time. And after we were done, a kumu had come up to us, a teacher that works in the special ed, was so ecstatic that we had this activity. And he shared with us, and I'm trying to like hold back tears as he's sharing this. He shared that with his special ed students, he works primarily with autistic children who can't verbally express, how they're feeling. And his plan after seeing this activity was, he grabbed this activity and is going to tape it to each of the students' desks, so that he could have a conversation with the students in both Olelo Hawaii and Olelo Haole now, to have students, his autistic students, that were across different spectrums, right, use these decals to communicate to him on how they were feeling, yeah? And he used that, his plan was to use that in the morning and the afternoon to just kind of gauge where the students were and how they were feeling, and kind of guide his curriculum accordingly based upon how the temperature was for his classroom. And when he shared that, like, I'm all like, oh man, try not to cry, because never in our wildest dreams did we even vision it, this kind of engagement with students being embedded that deep into the classroom in these kinds of ways. And we were very, very happily floored with that when that story was shared with us.
Yeah, there's so many different stories that we hear of ways that people use this, even in their ohana, or social workers who use it with their clients, and it's so heartwarming. Like, this is the payoff for Kinohi and I in all that we do, to hear these stories, because like Kinohi mentioned, never in our wildest dreams would we have thought that these are ways that people are going to be using the activities that we came up with. On there, you see the 2 sheets of decals that we use that I showed you, that was on my cover. But we also put, we know that people want some fun things. So we also put on there some fun things. We came up with what we call a le'o bag. And the le'o bag has a Fiji bracelet, because sometimes people just need to be doing something with their hands while they're listening to someone talk. There's a squish ball, or a stress ball. And there's also like that kinetic sand, because sometimes people just want to create, so we have that little bag to bring out the creative side of the keiki and their ohana. Actually, so I did see a question in the chat, and you know what? I'm going to answer that question now. Someone had asked, or someone had suggested it would be a great idea to put the seeds in the kit. Okay. And I may be wrong. Yeah, I may be wrong, but this is what we learned after we did this kit for our collaboration. And during the debriefing, one of the team members at that time had asked about, wouldn't it have been wonderful if we put seeds in? Like, would they grow? Are there certain places where they grow better than others? Like, you don't see as many of this red ohia lehua tree here on Oahu. Like, where would you find it? So I subscribed to an email list, and just so happened shortly after we had that meeting, I received an email, and the email had said that you could pre-order the ohia lehua kits, the seed kits, and it was the seeds, it was the pot, and the peat, I think they call it, like the moss, and with instructions and everything. So I was super excited, because I was like, hey, we had a professional development workshop coming up with that team, and I had volunteered us to do an activity because Kinohi wasn't there that day. So I said, oh, Kinohi will do it. We'll come up with an activity. And in talking with Kinohi, I was like, wow, this would be a good follow-up from our Ike in a Box that we did for that series. Like, we can do this as the professional development for the team. And he was like, yeah, that's a great idea. So I got on and emailed this person to see how we could order 20 of these seed kits for the workshop that we were doing. So, we bought the 20 kits, and what I found out when she delivered it was the seeds need to be refrigerated until you're ready to plant it. So I said, oh, I got to take care of these seeds in my refrigerator until the day of the workshop. And then we got to make sure that we plant these seeds, right? So then I thought, well, then I guess that means that we can't just pack them in these kits, because they'd have to be refrigerated. Now, I don't know what happens if they are not refrigerated. And maybe some of you might know, that you've had experience with it not being refrigerated. But I can tell you, I haven't tried it because I don't know if any of you have grown an ohia lehua plant from the seed. But the person that we purchased it from gave me a seedling because she said it wasn't going to be an instant gratification kind of thing. She said she had planted this seedling 1.5 years prior. And I promise you, when she gave me that seedling, it was only about this high. And I have to water it every day. And I have to make sure when I go on a trip, when I'm off island, that somebody waters my seedling, whether I take it to an Ohana house so that they can make sure they water it every day. Because I'm like, that was 1.5 years of her life, a half a year of my life. The seedling is only about this big and it's 2 years old. So I haven't tried it if I take it out of the refrigerator and I plant it and it's not refrigerated, if it's going to grow, because it's going to take forever for me to see the results. But I can tell you that if you actually get to the point where you can plant this ohia lehua seedling into the ground, that's a lot of love and care that went into that. I mean, you malama that seed for a very long time, because I'm feeling it right now where it's 1/2 year and my thing isn't nearly as tall as I would think it would be. It's not even close to being ready for the ground. Yes, it's very slow to grow, but it will. I see a little bit of going, So yes, so mahalo for the suggestion, but we haven't done it because of that experience that we had back in the spring where we were told you need to keep it refrigerated until you're ready to plant. I'm going to turn it back to Kinohi to take us down the home stretch.
Yeah, which kind of brings us to our community engagement. So in all of the programs that we did that we mentioned thus far, since the pandemic in Hawaii in 2020 to 2023, we probably serviced about nearly 40,000 participants in that short period of time. And you would think, okay, we've done it all. We're good. Drop the mic and we're po. Nope. Lisa and I still felt like we wanted to do more. And as we were doing these kinds of programs through the collaborations and partnerships, many of them throughout that time, we were still getting asked from our community to do more. And with people like Lisa and myself, and along with many of our educators and frontline people that are doing wonderful things for our community, we get hard time saying no. So that's how this whole community engagement opportunity kind of came through. And that kind of came through a number of different acts that were happening around the same time. It happened through one of our first collaborations, our at the front end with our partners with Kapono Kaiulu, where you were asked to kind of put together an activity looking at Kalakaua. Now that we're kind of segueing into the whole theme of Hawaiian History Month, we were asked to do something related to Kalakaua. So, okay, Lisa, we gotta put our heads together and think about that. There was Mahina Ku'oko'a coming up at that time. Looking at Ku'oko'a and the significance of that. Also, just last year, we got the ask for to be a part of Eola Ka'i. We got the invitation and the ask to be a part of that. And I said, shoots can, but we got to figure something out. And then we also recently got the ask with La Ho'iho'i'ea about coming up with a small something for the little ones and the Ohana to really teach and engage with Hawaiian history. So Lisa and I talked story, and I said, in this project and in these asks, I really would like to do our part in contributing in a very small way on how we can kind of teach Hawaiian history for those people that are, outside of the classroom and that are not, maybe don't have the tools or the resources or even the ike, the knowledge on how to kind of have those conversations about our Hawaiian history. And from that putting our heads together, we came up with our card series, our greeting card series, where we're on the third series now. The first series where we kind of looked at Kalakaua when we were asked with our partners with Ma'o, Kamehameha Community Learning Center in Ma'ili, Lili'uokalani Trust at that time, and In Peace. We came up with the first series, which is the Kalakaua series, and using that as a tool to teach small facts and small history about Kalakaua's contributions related to STEM in particular, and kind of tying that in with STEM and the arts. Here, let me stop my screen share. So Lisa, go ahead, show it again. Yeah, so those are the facts that are on the backside of the cards that we put together with our Kalakaua series. There we go. And we talked about some of the things that he contributed as part of Hawaiian's history and technology of that time. Many of us know, like with Iolani Palace, one of the first hale that was run by electricity due to his relationship with the inventor of electricity. And that's how we got that powered and going, along with running toilets. Kalakaua was also instrumental in introducing the Hawaii's railway into our Hawaii communities. So we talked about that. But all of those little tidbits and information can be found on the backside of each of these card series so that families could, number one, use it and color it, right? So the kids are coloring it. The families, as Lisa had shared, we're always big about having discussion pieces that kind of create these conversations with families and children as they kind of learn together with the information on the back. And the third piece is, come Pa'ina with parties or luau or weddings. There's function in it. You could use these cards to put money inside for cousin that's getting married. And then when they get it, it becomes a teaching tool for them. And beautiful model that Uncle David created with Pua No'eau with its inception in 1989, to where we're all about embedding our ike as deep as we possibly can. And primarily with tying it in with Hawaiian History Month, that was our little way of tying that in. The second series, which had to do with our La Ku'oko'a, we brought in the Lili'uokalani series, card series, along with Eola Ka'i with celebrating Hawaiian language. We talked about the contributions of Lili'uokalani, and happy belated birthday, Auntie Lili'u, on September 2nd, where we talk about the contributions of Lili'uokalani, not only with her as our queen, but how she was very global and worldly, like that of Kalakaua. Also her contributions to our Hawaiian mele, our stories, and definitely our history, along with being the ali'i of our people. And the third series, in celebration of La Ho'iho'i'ea, we came up with our Timoteo and Kauikeauli series. Kauikeauli, where we use it as a tool to teach about Kauikeauli and how our wonderful ali'i, our wonderful chiefs, were very visionary in looking at ways in which that they make global change, kind of circling it back to the mission of Native Hawaiian Student Services and the mission of Pua No'eau, and circling it back to that, about really looking beyond our communities and looking beyond ourselves and looking at ways in which we can make impacts for ourselves, our people, our community, and the world. And so in that card series with Timoteo and Kauai Keoli, we talk about how Kauai Keoli was very instrumental in supporting people like that of Timoteo to travel abroad to kind of claim recognition of Hawaii beyond Hawaii, in the world, beyond. We also talk about how Kauai Keoli started the Hale Kula Ali'i, which is the hale in which many of our ali'i greats, like that of Kalakaua, Lili'u, Pauahi, etc., were able to get an education to really use it as our advantage to kind of put ourselves beyond ourselves in the communities and the world. And we share that in these card series to, again, our little way of teaching history to our families and our communities and our people in a way that's kind of palatable and easy to understand. I mean, with me, when I went to school, I didn't learn about Timoteo until I graduated from high school. And so in doing so, we were in our own little ways trying to create these opportunities of learning about little tidbits, little little seeds to which we can learn about our Hawaiian history. And that's how we did so with this card series that we came up with. And with that,
our first set of cards, we actually put a postage stamp on one of the cards because we encouraged, we were in the height of COVID at that time when our Kalakaua series came out. So we stuck a postage stamp on the envelope and we encouraged Ohana to think of somebody that they hadn't seen for a while. It could be kupuna, it could be somebody who lived on another island, and to write a short message to them and let them know they were thinking of them and send them the card, good old US mail, right? So we asked them to reach out further than their hale and their immediate community, but to reach out to someone else that they hadn't seen. And because of COVID, they probably wouldn't interact with anytime soon. So it was a really neat way to encourage them to reach out to the community. And, the stamp was on there already. So all they had to do was write an address and write the card, stick it in the mailbox.
And there's something about, we have our phones and we have technology where we can text message and whatnot, but there's something about writing a personalized letter with pen or pencil and to send that to someone, old school via mail to let them know that you're thinking about them and that you aloha them. And like that of all of the programs that we do came the wonderful stories of, wow, I didn't hear from my grandnephew in forever. And they wrote me this kind little note of aloha auntie or aloha uncle. And it was so heartwarming to hear from them via mail. So, again, small little ways in how we can impact and teach and create this engagement for our children, families, community, and our collaborators. So with that, I wouldn't leave just yet. We're at the tail end and the very end of our presentation. We did want to open it up maybe for anybody with questions, and maybe if our team, if there's any questions that we could kokoa with and answer, let us know.
Yeah, mahalo nui. I learned so much about all the great work you guys are, and granted, I'm on your email list, so I do get it, but I don't have so many keiki running around that I'm participating in all of it. But I guess let's start with that one. If someone wants to get on your email list to learn about your programs, how do they do that?
We're gonna reveal that very, very soon.
Okay, so stick around. I did see a comment earlier that said, what year did Let's Cook Kako begin? And is there a mahi'ai program to support these kinds of cooking programs?
So Let's Cook Kako. Let's Cook Kako started in May of 2021. There are many different cooking programs out there. I can tell you that our Let's Cook Kako program has been funded by several different funders. So initially, and I mentioned, the pilot program was with the Hawaii DOE Community Engagement Branch. They were very, very generous in allowing us, and actually, if if you heard the conversations that Kinohi and I have, you would laugh because they asked us to submit a proposal with a budget. And we asked, or any particular guidelines, and they said, just dream big. So Kinohi and I go back to the drawing board and we're like, oh, those are words, man. Let's dream big, And so we sat there and I said, Kinohi, I can think of one thing that I would really, really want to do. And we've talked about this, but we have never been able to do it with the funding and, the way the UH system works. And he was like, what? And I said, a cooking program. And he was like, ooh, you know what? And there it went. It took off because then we started just throwing ideas out. But when that finished, we were like, okay, we're done. And people started asking, hey, are you guys going to do that, in the fall? And we're like, no funding. It's not in any of our contracts. That was something that we dreamed big. And that particular DOE department was willing to throw down the money for it. So one of our other collaborators caught wind and she said, what would it take to continue that program? And we said, well, it's not just the money, but it's the manpower. Like, we're a two-man team. And for us to be packing and assembling something like 65, 100 boxes, I think at that time it was actually 100 because we did 60 at Mānoa. And, we rented a van, a cargo van, loaded up 40 boxes. He drove it out to Waianae and did a distribution in Waianae. I was at Mānoa with a pallet and boxes stacked on the pallet. And we said, it's going to take some manpower. You're going to have to find us some manpower, volunteer manpower, in addition to the funding. And she said, okay, I think we can do that. So through the generosity of the Native Hawaiian Science and Engineering Mentorship Program, we were able to continue Let's Cook Kako for another year. And then along with some funding from Kamehameha School's Community Learning Center at Ma'ili, who also picked up a portion of that to fund the program, we were able to continue that for another year. And then we were coming to the end of that year. And again, we had to look for funding. So, we submitted a proposal to the Department of Health and wrote that in, and they picked that up because they also saw the value of it in the nutritional and the health side, the healthy eating, being able to feed the Ohana, and also bringing the Ohana together, which is what the vision for that program was. So they picked it up and, it was funded by them. I've seen other cooking programs where you can purchase the cooking kit and then you can get onto Zoom or whatever online platform they have. We've had different people ask about it. But really, if you've never experienced Let's Cook Kako, Let's Cook Kako comes with a food kit that contains almost everything that you need to cook a meal for a family of 4. And it's a generous size portion for a family of 4. And when we say a meal, we're talking like a 4-course meal. So you have your entree, you have your starch, you have your side salad, you have your dessert. Sometimes there's a bread that goes along with it, as well as we have supplemental activities that are added in so that it continues beyond just the dinner table. There's interaction even after that. Some of the things that we've had are things like pogs or milk caps, but local version from keiki kaukau. We've had kiwi kits that talks about like grilling, ice cream making, baking bread. So you have STEM and science incorporated into that. And that's, beyond the dinner table. We've had where we have sourced the basic kit from one vendor, but then we've also gone out and we've bought locally grown, locally made products, things like granola from Kauai specially made for us
Alo.
and then shipped over. Kalo, ulu, uwala that we purchased from our local farmers.
Chocolate.
Right? So we try to bring in as much as we can, but we haven't found any other program that is willing to sponsor and run something of this magnitude. We do incorporate into Let's Cook Kako as much as possible, also the concepts of sustainability. So things like when we're using green onions, when we're cutting lettuce, when we're cutting carrots, potatoes, we're talking about how do you sustain this so that it continues to feed your family? You don't just throw away the roots. You don't just throw away the core. You replant it. What does that look like? In the end, how much savings is that? If we were to go into another pandemic, you wouldn't have to panic that there wasn't food in the store. You'd have it growing in your backyard or in your kitchen, because many people live in apartments nowadays. We talked about, we've put in kits where you plant. If your hale is an apartment, you don't have an outdoor space to plant. We've put in kits addressing that as well. We try to, and it's a learning experience for us as we go along with each session. We're learning more and more about what we want to put into it. Ohana, I see that they were on Zoom with us. They're one of our faithful Ohana that always join us, and they can tell you probably from the beginning to the end how it's grown, and it's just taken off with different activities and different styles that we've put into it. We also utilize haumana, like real live haumana from families. Kinohi and I, we don't have our own keiki in our hale, but we pull keiki from other places. Sometimes we have ohana that come in and cook with us, because it's not about two adults cooking. It's about keiki and makua cooking together, right?
Yeah.
That's great. I also want to share, there were some comments in our Zoom and from Facebook. This specific one came from Jessica, who shared some links and said, we would like to incorporate Native Hawaiian culture and Ike into a project we created at Wailuku Public Library on Maui. We created keiki self-care toolkits and want to partner with Maui-based coalition. And then she shared a link for the hoikaikapartnership.com. So yeah, I'm looking forward to go check out some of these links and just seeing what others are doing.
Yeah, and I would encourage that person to drop that kit or that information, if it's digitized, to put it in Waihona.
Yeah. Mahalo for giving the shout out to for Waihona.net. And just FYI, if you do go on to Waihona.net, you'll have to set up
like an account.
Profile, yes. And you can come in as a community member or a teacher, or there's so many different ways there. So let's see. I saw
a question about how much does it cost.
Okay.
Mahalo to our collaborators. It's free. It's free. And
it's the best deal in town.
Depending on the opportunity, mahalo to our collaborators and partners. The investment per ohana for each of our programs varies anywhere from $100 to $10,000, like that of our Summer Institute program.
There was also a question about a cookbook, because you mentioned a lot of your recipes and maybe a few of them are in the Waihona. Is that the best place to go find?
Yeah, that's the plug. I'm going to plug them again. That if you want the recipes from Let's Cook Kako, Waihona would be the place to do it. Also, we have some of our coloring pages in there as well that I uploaded. And then via our social media on Facebook and Instagram, you can look in our profile, and that's where all of the latest coloring pages that some of I see in the chat, some of the Ohana are talking about, because along with the card series that we did, when we partnered with Kamehameha Community Learning Center in Ma'ili for the Christmas event, there's a coloring sheet series that honors Kamehameha, Ke'elikolani, Pauahi, And there's a whole bunch of resources that we don't have enough time for to talk about in our session tonight, but we're all over the place, yeah.
I see a question from Dana. She's asking if the cookbooks and cards are available in bookstores like Namea. No, we operate on grant funding. So we, with the university, we're not able to resell the things that we produce. So like, he mentioned in Ohana, we have some of our recipe pages in there. We don't have a cookbook that's put together. At the end of year one for Let's Cook Kapo, we did put together, we printed out all of the recipe page, all of the menus and instructional sheets that we had used for that year. We had put it together and included that in the year end session that we did. And then after that, we started uploading into Ohana. The cards, you will have an opportunity at the end, but we have our latest cards. So one of the ways that our Ohana is rewarded for participation, because as we shared, our programs are free, right? And I'm sure, some of you like myself, a lot of times we go, oh, free, we sign up for programs, but then something else comes up, or, we get tired or we forget and we don't go. Well, with our NPN programs, what happens is we send supplies out. And as Kinohi mentions, it can vary in cost. Kits minimally cost us $30 to $40. Then we have to add packing, shipping. That doesn't even include the labor that it takes to mail the kits out to Ohana, and then they don't show up. So a lot of times these little tools are what we use as the mahalo, it's the makana for participating. So when people come to events that we have, or when they register and they sign up for the events, but like tonight, we're at the end, before we leave, we're going to ask you if you want to get the latest series of our cards. We'll ask you to fill out, and then you'll also have an opportunity to get on the email list. Maybe sometime in the future, the Pua No'eau might, look into something. I mean, Kinohi and I have thrown it out to our alumni, our Haumana who have graduated. They've graduated from UH already. We've thrown it out there. We're like, hey, why don't you guys create like some kind of business thing, making kits, and then, you can put this up on an online thing. Nobody's bitten yet. they're still feeling their way in their careers. But, I had mentioned earlier before we started, that NHSS just came out with their second children's book that they published, and their first one ran out so fast. Well, their second one, they do have something with Namea, where Namea is going to be carrying that second book, but it's going to be sold strictly through Namea, and it's not through Native Hawaiian Student Services or the university system. So maybe someday we'll have it like that, but for now, everything is offered for free, and it's offered most times in conjunction with one of our programs that we're doing.
Great. And, I will let everyone know, when you do join on to one of the programs, it's not a webinar like tonight. You got to turn on your cameras. You're going to see in the email, it says requirement. You got to turn on your cameras. You got to be visible, and you have to come, because if you don't come, maybe next
no-show list.
Yeah, you're on the no-show list, and again, like they were saying, they invested a lot of time and a lot of resources into getting those kits together, sending it out. And then, some people may just, get the kit, but we really want our Ohana to be a part of it and, learn throughout the whole process. So I love all of those things. I see all those little details. Turn on the camera, participate in the chat. You have to name yourself a certain way. So I love that you guys have come up with all these best practices. You know, I kind of see that as best practices for virtual learning and ways to engage with our Ohana. So
yeah, and it's taking, I believe, some of our Loina Hawaii too, right? That we're alo people. We're not ele screen to ele screen where we want to be able to engage with our families and our children. That's so important for us as a center to make sure our families and our students are okay. And if we cannot see and talk story with them, kind of poho. So we always kind of base that off of our loina, that it's very important to us that we engage and make sure that everybody's doing okay while they're at our programs and opportunities, whether it's virtual or in person.
And I always say, for the person who's speaking, for the kumu, your guest speaker, it's motivating to be able to see your audience, so it really does motivate us. Like, we can come on, we do mo'olelo, and it's after a long day of work, or, we come on a Saturday, it's our day off, and here we are working on our day off. And sometimes you've got other stuff going on in your personal life that people don't see, but we come on and we're like, okay, this is it, like, game on. And then we see the kids, and it's like, that makes the world of difference.
It totally does.
I cannot even stress how many times Kinohi and I are like, we could flip because we see all those faces, and it's like, wow, those are the lives we're touching. Bring it on. So, are there any other questions? Is there anything else?
No, I think we covered all of them, and so much gratitude is being shared in the chat, both
thank you,
on
everybody.
Facebook as well as here on Zoom. And yeah, we want to say mahalo, and I know you guys are going to share a special QR code.
Yeah, we
Yes,
very much are.
We are.
So Lisa, take it away. I'll share it right now.
So with every Pua No'eau session, event, or program that we do, we always want feedback. We want to hear from you, the participants, what you got out of it, and or what you would like to see about our programming. So we have an evaluation / you can sign up for our mailing list, our email list, as well as we have a special makana for you. If you have your smartphone or your tablet, you can go ahead and scan the QR code that's up there on the screen. Otherwise, I believe they were going to drop the link in the chat room, and it will take you to a Google form. If you would like to receive this set of cards with Timoteo, Kauikea Oli, and the Hale, please go ahead and fill that out. Your name, your mailing address, and then we will get that to you next week. And then if you can just give us some feedback. If you want to be on our email list, please list your email there, and we'll add you to our email list. We send out emails of upcoming programs, upcoming workshops that we have. And then sometimes if there's a resource that's of high interest that we feel is beneficial to our NPN Ohana who are on our email list, we'll send that out too. So we try not to send out too many. Like, we don't forward a lot of other people's emails. No. It's normally just NPN emails and a few select resource emails that we feel, are of high value. Other than that, how can you find out what we're doing? Social media. We're on Instagram and Facebook. If you go ahead and follow us on Instagram, Pua No'eau, or on Facebook, Pua No'eau, go ahead and request to be a friend. That's where we post a lot of our upcoming events, as well as we'll also share resources from other collaborators and partners. And then, you folks, after you attend one of our NPN events, you can go ahead and post pictures, or, you can contact us that way as well.
Yeah, I will throw in there that this offer is only for our live audience that's with us tonight. So if you try to watch the broadcast, we're going to close the evaluation at some point. So this is our makana for all of you folks who kind of sat through our entire presentation, as our mahalo to all of you.
Yeah. And we
Uh,
really did enjoy having you tonight.
Yeah,
And mahalo, Malia, for having us. We,
yeah,
you
good
know,
times. All of
it was a great opportunity for us to share with you and to learn a little bit about what you folks are doing.
yeah, so speaking of community engagement, my last few slides will highlight all of our partners for Hawaii Pua No'eau Coalition and just ways that all of you can continue to hear more about what's going on with our programming. And, you know, next week, which is week 3 of Hawaiian History Month 2023, our theme is Ho'ola, acknowledging our past, nurturing our future. And we're thankful for Papa'ola Lokahi and the JABSOM Department of Native Hawaiian Health that's helping to create all of our programming. So here's the first list of our Mahalo Nui Loa. So some of our key partners, I will read them all out for you to hear. Kamehameha Schools, Office of Hawaiian Affairs, Iolani Palace, Kanaio Kana, Lili'uokalani Trust, Papa'ola Lokahi, UH Mānoa John A. Burns School of Medicine, Department of Native Hawaiian Health, Ahahui o nā Kauka, UH Mānoa Center for Biographical Research, UH Mānoa Hawaii Nui Akea School of Hawaiian Knowledge, Hawaii Youth Opera Chorus, Olelo Community Media, and Oiwi TV. This next list of our partners are also key partners that help us get the word out to all of you by being a cross-posting partner, and some of them have helped us in just all different kinds of ways. So we want to say mahalo again to all of our partners. You know, you can also follow us on social media if you're not yet doing that. On Facebook, Hawaii Pua No'eau, and on Instagram, we're there as well, Hawaii Pua No'eau Coalition. Again, for all of our programming, we will begin to update all of our Zoom links for the upcoming weeks. And we have 5 weeks planned for you. So please go back to hawaiianhistorymonth.org and find all of our detailed programming there. Ke aloha nui a o ko apau, a hau'oli lahanau e lili'uokalani.